Is Peroni Red better than its big brother? We're about to find out. Hello and welcome back to the channel, and yes, today I'm taking a look at two beers from Peroni, the original, which incidentally I don't think I've ever reviewed on this channel, and Peroni Red, which whilst not a brand new beer, is starting to become ever more popular in Italian restaurants and in a few specialist retailers here in the UK, so I thought it was a good time to pitch them head to head to find out what the deal really is. Now, Peroni Red is marketed as the more authentic, the more premium, and incidentally also the favourite of the Italian people, but it comes in at 4.7% versus the 5% of the regular Peroni. Now, of course, we all know that ABV is not a marker of quality, but it's just an interesting decision. They're also pitching Peroni Red as a bit of a meal accompaniment, a food pairing beer, whereas, well, I guess the regular Peroni is just a regular Italian lager. So it will be interesting to find out. I mean, I think at this point everyone knows what the regular looks like. The label on this one going absolutely nowhere. I'm not sure why that's just holding out there, but yeah, it's a regular bottle of Peroni. This one is much larger than the Peroni Red because simply, well, they don't sell individual bottles of the small ones in many places. The Peroni Red, though, they do, 330ml bottle. Again, the label on that is, I don't know if you can tell, is kind of peeling off the side there. I don't know what's going on in their quality control in the labelling factory, but it's not doing a good job. But it does have a more reserved, old school, traditional European look about it. It's yeah, definitely a stark difference. Now, I know Peroni isn't everyone's favourite thing, and a lot of people give it a bit of a ribbing. Truthfully, it's actually one of the mainstream lagers that I mind the least. I'm not going to go as far as to say that I like it a lot, but given an environment where mainstream junk basically is the only option, then, well, yeah, actually, if it's Peroni, I'm not that disappointed, or at least I'm not as disappointed as I could have been. Part of the reason for that, I think, is because despite now being owned by Asahi and being internationally well known, it's still made in Italy, which, to be honest, is just a bit of a relief given how much of the rest of the UK mass lager market is, well, made in Burton-on-Trent. So we're going to break into the red first because it's that lower ABV. Even if it has got a stronger taste, I want to experience this properly without anything affecting my palate. So it's got a nice bit of colour to it, that has to be said. Now then, in the glass, it really does have a nice, darker, more almost rosé vibe to it. It's definitely got a hint of red. It might be the lights behind me, but I'm kind of blocking them for the most part. So yeah, it's definitely got, I mean, I guess that's why they called it Peroni Red, right? It has got a hint of red about it, beautiful, crisp, white, one finger white head on it, as you would expect. But as far as mass-produced lagers go, it doesn't look like a bad one. Now, I will pour the regular Peroni now as well, just so we can do some aroma notes before I dig into the red. That distinct, slightly skunked smell of supermarket beer. Green bottles, always a danger. No, the red came in a brown one, and that was a better idea. So now we can really see the difference. The regular Peroni, definitely more carbonated, no doubt about it. Neither of these glasses have got the little widget in the bottom. There's just loads more foam, loads more bubbles going off in the regular, which is in the larger glass. But it is paler, no doubt. It's a more yellow straw colour, whereas, yeah, that red definitely got some orangey tangerine vibes going on. Right then, aromas for the Peroni Red. Soft, malty, slightly hoppy, distinct sweetness to it. It doesn't have a huge breadth of aroma notes. Most mass market lagers don't. Like, it was always going to be a pretty short review in that regard. But to be honest, it doesn't smell bad. Maybe lacking a bit of interest, but yeah, certainly far from grotesque. Now, this might be a different story. Actually, the skunkiness, short-lived. It smells pretty good. It's not, again, the most interesting lager out there, but it has got a slight bit of bite to it from that Italian hop profile. It's got a tiny bit of sweet cereally malt poking through, but otherwise, as you would expect, not a huge deal to talk about. So let's get on with it, shall we? Into the Peroni Red. Cheers. Okay, it's not incredible, but it's really not bad at all, at least on a first sip. It's got that distinct Peroni thing, you know, where it's just a little bit edgier, but also a bit sweeter and everything else. But it's got extra sweetness, it's got extra fruitiness, it's got a bit of raspberries, blackcurrants, you know, dark berries vibe going on. It's not massive, it's not like a lager and black, but yeah, it's, I have to say, far from a disappointment. The conditioning on it is really poor, I must say. It's really sloppy, really sloshy. Not enough carbonation. Maybe it would be better in a proper lager glass, but so often I do that and it just goes everywhere, so I'm going to go a bit reserved with this. And this is kind of a lager tulip, it's just not got the bumps at the bottom there. But you know what? Hot day, primed Italian steak. That, yeah, there is a bit of a wine vibe about it, actually. Now, it's not got the acidity, it's not got the tannins, it's not got the, well, let's be honest, astringency that people who don't like wine don't like about wine. But a little bit of that fruitiness, a little bit of that richness, a little bit of that, yeah, that blending, I'm trying to find the word. Sophistication. It's soft, it's subtle. If you buy this and go, that guy on the internet, he said this is a sophisticated beverage, and you'll sip it and you'll go, tastes like lager, to be honest. And you would be right, it does still just taste like lager, but if you look down, look underneath, there are just a few hints that it might be something a little bit more. Now then, just before we compare it to the regular, real quick, full top to bottom taste test notes, just so we can try and dissect everything that's in there on the tip of the tongue. Spritzy, refreshing, soft grassy hops, tiny bit of citrus, but it really is very, very low down, over the mid palate. Sweet, malty. The fruits are starting to come in, but they're not distinct, they're not obvious what they are. The hop continues though, and it's like freshly cooked grass, you know, like super refreshing hop. Not dank, it's not earthy, it's not floral, overly bitter, it's not citrusy even. It's just, yeah, fresh cooked grass, and that, I'll be honest, is absolutely delightful. Over the back of the tongue, bitterness picks up a bit, a few malty notes. At this point, you're still just thinking, this is really just generic lager. It might not be a bad generic lager, but yeah, it's certainly nothing too special. But then, the aftertaste. Everything pops off. Most of the bitterness dies down. There's just a little bit that runs all the way through it just to keep it in check so it doesn't become too sweet. Those berry notes start to come in, and it's a bit like a fresh summer berry tart thing. I don't know what the right word is, but yeah, a bit like pastry vibes. Like, it's not bad at all, I must say. And on to what I'm going to call my old nemesis. I did say I didn't mind Peroni, but it is also the subject of the worst hangover of my life, and as a result, well, we've been not quite so close acquainted ever since. But in comparison, how does it go? Cheers. A lot of the marketing around Peroni Red suggested it was maltier, hoppier, a bit more in-depth. And whilst the ingredients might suggest that's the case, the experience isn't. Because this regular brings that big, crisp, lip-smacking bit of bitterness, quite sweet still, but ultimately distinctly Italian lager vibe, and brings it big. It's bold, Peroni. For a mainstream lager, it's pretty punchy. And yeah, it's more overwhelming on the palate. I'm really glad I reviewed the red first, because frankly, it doesn't really stand a chance in terms of the intensity of the flavour that it delivers. But if we go back to it, it is much sweeter, it is much softer. But after having a sip of the regular, those bitter notes, the kind of the soft bitterness that just holds it together, it's delicate. I kind of can't taste anymore. It just tastes a bit sweet and watery. Now it's been kind of disbanded. I must say though, don't know if it's the ABV thing, but body, carbonation, the physical experience of actually the regular Peroni is better. Like, this is just a bit of a washy mess, but it kind of gets away with it because that taste profile is just, well, it feels like it's been considered, and that's ultimately what you want, and also what you want if you're going to pair it with food, which is probably why it is like it is. The red, though, is reminding me of one other thing. Peroni also do something called the Doppio Malto. They do a few specials. They're kind of super premium, single bottle. I'm sure you've seen them knocking about in the odd supermarket over the last few years. The Doppio Malto is one of them, and it's my favourite. And in fact, it's one of my favourite non-German in fact, it is my favourite non-German supermarket lager. But it's not really a lager in the traditional sense. It's big, it's breadthy, it's an experienced beer that just happens to be lagered rather than another lager. And this has traits. This is a slimmed down, everyday, palatable version of that's completely sessionable. The other might be a bit strong for a session, whereas this you could do quite a lot of damage with. So I'll be honest, given the choice, if you happen to be in the mood for that intense, proper Italian Pilsner lager experience. Is it an Italian Pilsner? I always forget what they actually do this as. I mean, it's got enough bite, but yeah, they don't actually say. But anyway, if you fancy that de facto style thing, the regular kind of is the hallmark of it, so you're not going to beat it. But if you're in an Italian restaurant, you want a lager and you just want something that's not going to go over the top and it's better than any other generic lager. Basically what I'm saying is, unless there's something really hype in there, something, you know, from one of the top tier German breweries, or a craft lager that you know is reliable, and there's not that many of those around, to be honest, then actually Peroni Red, is an absolutely solid shout when you're in a restaurant, at a barbecue, something like that. But it might just be a little bit soft if that's all you're focusing on. So there you have it. There is a time and place for both of these. I'm not sure that I personally will go out and buy lots of either of them ever in the future. Next time I'm in one of my favourite Italian restaurants, I know they sell Peroni Red along with a load of other interesting Italian options that you can't get anywhere else in the UK. So I normally go for those, but maybe, just maybe next time, I'll give the Red a try just to see how it pairs with some authentic Italian cuisine. But there you have it. Hopefully that is a reasonable roundup of the two styles. They are distinctly different. They do have their time and place. And yeah, let me know in the comments below, please, if you like either of these or if there's any other contenders that I should pitch them up against in a future video, and I will happily do so. But that really is all I've got to say about it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe if you will be so kind. And I'll catch you next time. Cheers.